Hello and welcome to Frost Over the World. Later in the programme, actress Joanna Lumley fights for the rights of Nepal's Gurkhas. Rumours of a coup plot in Georgia. Cuban dancer Carlos Acosta and the eccentric private life of Silvio Berlusconi. But first, Pakistan. Pakistan Prime Minister Yusuf Raza Gilani has underlined his government's new policy in the Swat Valley and ordered that army to, in his words, eliminate militants and terrorists. Eliminate them. It follows the recent fierce fighting in the Swat Valley where the Taliban are battling the Pakistan army, forcing thousands of civilians to flee their homes. US President Obama met the presidents of Afghanistan and Pakistan this week to discuss security in the region. The former Pakistan Information Minister, Sherry Rahman, joins me now from Washington. Sherry, how do you see the situation in Pakistan now, in the Valley of Swat and so on? I mean, is this an improvement, the attacks that have been taking place on the Taliban and so on, or is the lack of peace a bad state of affairs? Or is it a healthy one?
Well, the lack of peace, yeah. Well, the lack of peace is always a bad state of affairs, as you put it, but I think there was no other alternative. The use of force should always be a last resort. And as you know, we have a huge exodus from Swat. It's a humanitarian disaster and tragedy, but this was unfortunately unavoidable, certainly, because, as you know, the Taliban had threatened not just the peace, but the very stability of the region, as well as Pakistan.
Yes, in a way, was it a mistake to try and make peace and the accommodation with the Taliban and having an area that was going to be susceptible to Sharia law? Should that peace have ever been made, do you think?
Well, the history of peace deals in the region, especially in the tribal areas, has been pretty vexed, and they've really been causing reversals. They're very patchy and have allowed, in many cases, in critical cases, for non-state actors to regroup, to find sanctuary, to build ballast, and really come to somewhat of a critical mass. And I think it's unfortunate that peace was conflated with the loss of executive force by the state. I think you can make peace. You can certainly dialogue. Every conflict entails some kind of dialogue, even if it's at the end, but it's important for the state to retain the monopoly on the use of force, and I think that's the problem here.
But I mean, for most of Pakistan are not crazy about the Taliban, are they?
Absolutely not. Pakistan voted, forget the Taliban, in a halfway free election. Pakistan does not even vote for the religious parties, which are far more moderate and mainstream than the Taliban. And as usual in the last election last year, in February, we saw the religious parties relegated to the usual margins of 2% of garnering the national vote and very little representation in the parliament. So that's a very clear message, even in the troubled tribal areas, very clear message to the leadership in Pakistan and the rest of the world that Pakistan votes even from those areas, from mainstream progressive parties such as the PPP and the Awami National Party, which is the Pashtun Nationalist Party in that area.
Yes, so as we were saying, that though the Taliban is quite popular, quite unpopular through most of Pakistan, at the same time the Americans, the allies, as it were, Americans are not that popular in Pakistan either.
As I said, it's really the fallout of years of intervention in Afghanistan, and obviously the Afghan jihad during the 1980s, and left a very large gun and narcotics and culture of religious radicalization in Pakistan, which had previously not really known this kind of toxic mix to come across the border. That was always the theater of insurgency, and today we see its fallout in a very big way, and aerial incursions into Pakistan's airspace, into territorial areas, send out a very powerful message to the people of Pakistan, who unfortunately react, and it's very natural that they would react and see this as an incursion and a threat to the sovereignty of Pakistan. We are a fairly 60-plus-year-old nation state, and whatever the image of that you see today about Pakistan is not the mainstream reality. Pakistanis have built institutions, they have a free media, have fought very hard for democracy and a free judiciary, so they expect to be able to retain at least this amount of understanding from their allies, that their aerial space and sovereignty not be intruded upon.
And do you think that Pakistan would be better served if President Zardari and Nawaz Sharif somehow resumed their coalition, as it were, their cooperation? Would that be good news, or is it just impractical?
No, I think that would be good news. I think that's the kind of dialogue and stability and political calm that is needed domestically in Pakistan, so that we can get on with the business of facing very, very tough challenges and the clear and present danger of Talibanization, which is not really a social challenge, but it's much more than that. And also we do have a fairly high incidence of poverty under a tough IMF program at a time when there is a worldwide economic recession. These are critical issues that require consensus in Pakistan, and particularly the threat posed by extremism, militancy, and terrorism. They are all three different things. They require a lot of leadership and public thought and consensus building, and the more united and reconciled the major political forces in Pakistan are, the better served again we will all be.
Sherry, thank you very much for joining us with your very clear message and so on. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
In a moment, I'll be joined by actress Joanna Lumley, star of everything from The New Avengers to Absolutely Fabulous. Described by one journalist this week as so beautiful that she, quote, seems to be made entirely of hand cream, poetry and champagne. But currently she's not acting, she's fighting a vital campaign on behalf of Nepal's Gurkha soldiers. The next part of this program begins with Nepal.